we imported. And in 1976, that figure would have been much higher still. Now you will have heard that those good, kind people in the common market are paying us what is described as a subsidy towards keeping the price of our food below what it would otherwise be, by the device known as the green pound of pretending that the exchange rate of the pound sterling is much higher than it actually is. It is estimated that this costs them some £350 million, probably more, a year. Though incidentally, Britain is still a net contributor to the EEC after all else has been taken into account. Of course, they grumble, but they pay. Why do you think they are prepared to do that? I'll tell you. It is because it is worth all that and a great deal more to them to keep the British market imprisoned inside the high-cost, self-sufficient common agricultural policy of the EEC. For they know that in a year or two's time, when the transitional period is well and truly behind us, all this facade of green currencies can be dismantled, and we shall have to accept what the reality of our membership means. When, for instance, as the Food Industries Council estimates, butter will rise to double its present price. And that's in real terms, not just in terms of inflation. No wonder the other countries are determined to pay through the nose, if necessary, to keep Britain as a community milch cow, somewhat as the ants keep the green aphis. The last thing they have the slightest intention of doing is to permit Britain to resume her position as a world buyer and, incidentally, a world supplier. I've been talking about the price of butter and such like. But throughout this whole debate from the very beginning, I have stated my conviction that the question of Britain and the EEC is not a question of the price of butter. I repeat that now. It is a question of the national existence and independence of Britain itself. The whole business of food prices and the common agricultural policy is a symbol and a specimen of the degradation of Britain from a nation to a province, so that our laws and government and policies are no longer to be, in the Prime Minister's words, what suit our requirements. We were threatened that we could not feed ourselves unless we gave up our freedom. Now we find that we have given away our freedom, but the ability to feed ourselves is taken away from us. The lesson which has been taught to the British electorate since it made its grave but recoverable mistake is that in small things and in great things alike, there is no future for the British people which they will find tolerable, except as a sovereign, self-governing nation-state. Let there be no misunderstanding. They can regain that status, that future, if they will. There is a gratifyingly neurotic note creeping into the voices of those who proclaim with an insistency which belies conviction that the future national status of the United Kingdom, or rather its permanent loss of national status, was settled once and for all by the referendum in 1975. The owners of those voices would fain deny or forget the government's official statement made at that time that after the referendum, continued British membership will depend upon the continuing assent of Parliament. For all the anguish of the Europeanists, it becomes more evident with every passing month that the issue of Britain, inside or outside the common market, is not just one live issue among many, but is the central political issue of coming years, to which all roads in politics lead back. The battle over Britain's national existence and parliamentary independence is a battle which will be fought through to the bitter end, however long it lasts. It is a battle in which no quarter will be asked and none will be given. It is a battle in the course of which all other political lines and links will continue to be overrun and broken as it surges one way or the other. It is a battle in which the bitterest foes of the past will stand together and the closest of old alliances be destroyed. I say these things in no spirit of bravado. They are cold and sober deductions from the fact that the fight is about the continued existence of a nation itself, an issue to which, by definition, all other political issues and causes whatsoever must be subordinate as to the greater which subsumes the less. In wartime, conservatives and socialists, nay, Tories and communists, sank their past differences and postponed their future divergent ambitions to fight together for the survival of the political nation itself. It is so again, but this time with the added bitterness that for many the cause of national independence has been deserted and renounced by the very party in the state which they had been accustomed to regard as synonymous with it. A man who wishes the United Kingdom to remain a part of the European Economic Community, and who thereby commits himself to this nation being one province of a European state, can be as honourable as the next. I've never denied that, provided that he openly acknowledges and professes the consequences of his opinion. He can be filled with benevolence towards his fellows, and genuinely convinced that as individuals, the peoples inhabiting this territory would enjoy important advantages as European provincials, which they cannot have as British nationals. But one thing he cannot be. He cannot be a patriot. For the basis of his action and intention is the conviction that this country is no longer, or ought no longer to be, a patria, a nation-state, whose people acknowledge no external human authority and owe no higher secular allegiance. The acceptance of a principle of a directly elected community assembly means one thing. It means that the community becomes a state. It ceases to be, like other international or supranational bodies, a combination or cooperation of states, all deriving their authority separately from their respective peoples. It becomes a sovereign entity in its own right, deriving its authority directly from the whole population. If anyone wishes for illustration, I invite him to imagine what would be the implications if the Assembly of the United Nations were directly elected by the peoples of the United Nations on a uniform electoral basis. That would indeed mark the creation of a world state. Look at the scene from below, from the point of view of the individual elector. He, along with his fellow electors, has sent a representative direct to the Parliament of that